Good afternoon. The owners of a new LGBTQ salon believe their business was vandalized by members of their own community. Above Ground opened its second location on Colfax near the state capitol late last week.
It was on that day, though, the owners found their pride flag was vandalized with messages they say were anti-trans. 9 News reporter Jaleesa Irizarry shares with us why they think that it was a member of the gay community who was behind the vandalism.
Walk along Denver's Colfax Street and find so much love. The street is known for its adoration for all.
Yeah, the Gaberhead.
Ross Johnson finds it fitting for a LGBTQ hair salon he and Ash Bowen consider
safe.
But what they say happened last week was quite the opposite of that.
Yeah, definitely, especially when it was our opening day and Ross came into a very blatant hate crime on our brand new window decal. And it felt like it was targeted at us from our own community, which was even more stressful.
On the salon's opening day, Bowen's business partner walked into this, a message that suggests trans people are child molesters. They believe it was written by a member of the queer community.
It said specifically like, gay pride is okay, but leave the trans out of it.
Johnson found the graffiti. He immediately attempted to scrub it off, only realizing the damage was done in more ways than one.
At first I was very angry. The anger kind of very quickly turned into sadness.
Just down the block at the center on Colfax, anti-trans hate within the queer community is not new. CEO Rex Fuller knows.
This is a dynamic I've heard of in the community. I do think it's a small group, but I'm always very upset when I hear people talk about members of our community that way.
Some of our earliest leaders also were gender diverse. They were also trans.
Sable Schultz, the center's director of transgender services, says on Colfax, there's no room for hate. Johnson and Bowen,
yeah, absolutely,
won't let this incident dampen a neighborhood they love.
So we're always going to be stronger than this.
Those with Above Ground say they are taking extra steps to try and prevent this from happening again. LGBTQ experts believe a lot of the anti-trans legislation happening across the country right now likely contributes to these messages of hate. Tom?
Jaleesa, it's one of those things where we talk about vandalism being hurtful and often tinged with hate, if nothing else. And then when it's directed specifically at a community, it carries even more of that.
Exactly, especially when they believe that it's their community that contributed to this, right? It's a whole other level of heartache that goes into this, but these individuals are strong and they say they're gonna stick around and make sure that any kind of vandalism will not stop them from doing their job.
All right, Jaleesa, thanks.
Let's take a look downtown on this Wednesday afternoon. Mostly really sunny day in Denver. It looks like we have a few clouds out there right now, but don't get too attached to it. You can't get attached to sunshine, Tom.
But even when it's cloudy like this, I was always told you can get a terrible burn on a day like this, Kathy. So.
Yes, yes, you
Anything can happen.
Yeah.
It feels so good, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To be out there. And it actually feels like spring's a couple of weeks away, which it is. The vernal equinox is on the 19th at around 9 o'clock in the evening. So March 20th is the first full day of the season. So we're so very close. And on a day like today, it feels like springtime. You want to be outside. We don't have the terrible wind. We had sun, as Kim mentioned earlier. Now the clouds are rolling in, all part of a storm system that's going to bring some heavy mountain snow starting later tonight. Temperatures with southerly winds have pushed way above average into the upper 50s and mid 60s for eastern Colorado. We're going to be done with that for a couple of days. Starting to see those winds ramp up as well over some of the higher passes. So that is an indicator of the arrival of a front that will be here in the morning. And then there's a secondary of low pressure that we're tracking in the southwest. These two features will come together to really enhance the precipitation first across the western slope and higher terrain, and then right here in Denver. We've got advisories out for snow, Denver not included, but a winter storm watch, the area in blue for 6 to 12, and a winter storm warning, the wet mountain range down there for well over a foot of snow, and the potential for some ice glaze conditions in northeastern Colorado. That's not something we want to see early Friday morning, but we'll be watching that. A stray rain shower is possible tonight and again tomorrow, and then we get scattered rain showers during the day, mixing with snow by tomorrow night. By 4 o'clock tomorrow, we're kind of looking at that rain-snow line right over Denver, flip into all snow tomorrow night. Friday morning's drive is going to be dicey with several inches of snow, but this system is out as quick as it comes in. And right now we have Denver in the 1 to 3 inch accumulation forecast, but a pretty sharp gradient for heavier snow just to the west. I'm going to talk about that coming up in Maine weather.
Okay, dicey, got me. All right, thanks, Kathy. The Douglas County Sheriff's Office says someone died after a car crashed into a pedestrian this morning in Highlands Ranch. Happened near Highlands Ranch Parkway and Veniford Ranch Road. The Sheriff's Office first tweeted about 7:15 this morning. About an hour and 15 minutes later, they said they were investigating it as a fatal crash. They didn't give any other information about the crash or the victim.
The Denver DA's office says no charges are expected in a shooting that killed 2 people in southwest Denver late last month. It happened at a commercial construction site near Bellevue and Wadsworth on Sunday, February 25th. Denver police say it was the site manager who arrived and found 2 people inside, possibly committing a burglary. Police said there was a confrontation and that the manager was assaulted. Then the manager shot both people. One of them died at the scene, the other at the hospital. Police said that site manager did stay on the scene and did cooperate with investigators.
And then there was one. After winning just one Super Tuesday primary yesterday, Nikki Haley is bowing out of the race for president. Haley officially announced she is suspending her campaign today, one day after being soundly defeated in nearly every primary on Super Tuesday. The lone win came in the state of Vermont. Here in Colorado, she only received 33% of the vote. This leaves former President Donald Trump as the presumptive nominee, set to once again face Joe Biden in the race for president. We have much more in the 2020 rematch coming up later in the hour.
A lot of sports today. The NHL trade deadline is coming up on Friday, but the Avalanche were busy today. They pulled off 2 trades. The Avs sending young defenseman Bo Byram east to Buffalo in exchange for center Casey Middlestat. Byram, of course, a part of the big Stanley Cup run a couple years ago. He's just 22 years old. In exchange, the Avalanche get a 25-year-old center. Middlestat's coming off his career year last year and was leading the Sabres in scoring this year with 47 points on 14 goals. And a few minutes before that trade, the Avs brought in an offensive defenseman from Philly, sending Ryan Johansson and a protected first-round pick to the Flyers. In return, they get defenseman Sean Walker and a 5th-rounder next year. The 29-year-old Walker has 22 points and 6 goals this year. He's played in every game for the Flyers this season. With the deals, these Avs are going to be a little shorthanded tonight against Detroit at Ball Arena, so they did make a couple of call-ups from the Eagles. Much more on the Avs and more on other sports coming up at 5 o'clock.